My work at VisionSpring has brought me a tremendous sense of happiness throughout my entire career. And I want to tell the story about VisionSpring and how it's brought happiness both to me personally as well as the millions of people we've been very fortunate to serve. The story starts in an unusual place, in the northern mountains of the Brooks Range in northern Alaska. And when I was 21 years old, like most 21-year-olds, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't really have a purpose, and I was searching for that. But the only thing I knew I really liked to do was backpack and climb mountains. So that's how I found myself in the northern part of Alaska in a place called the Brooks Range. And we were about halfway through a 1-month backpack into this wilderness, and a tremendous storm hit. And this was a 3-day driving rainstorm. It was about 38 degrees, and the rain was horizontal. By the second day in the tent, I had lost my capacity to stay in the tent any longer, and I decided to go climb one of the mountains that you saw there. I told my friends, if I'm not back in a couple of hours, come and get me, because it was grizzly bear country. So I wanted to make sure they knew where I was heading. I got to the top of the mountain, and the rain was just slashing my face, burned the cheek. It was raw, and it was one of those incredible dust in the wind moments. There I was in this incredible wilderness, extensive, and the whole universe was conspiring against me, telling me that I didn't really matter. And I hated that message. I knew I mattered. I knew deep in my marrow that I did matter, but frankly, I didn't really know how or why. Fast forward 6 months later, I'm in the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico, sitting across from a 7-year-old boy who was brought in from the School for the Blind. I had started my optometric studies. I found out about an organization that brought eye care services to underserved populations in Latin America. And there I was, face to face with a 7-year-old boy who was brought in from the School for the Blind. We looked at his eyes, and with the help of my professor, recognized that he wasn't in fact blind. He was just very, very highly myopic. The kind of myopia that literally he couldn't see my fingers 6 inches from his nose. And that's why he was deemed a blind person. Anyway, after the exam, we decided what kind of prescription he needed. I went to the library of glasses, and sure enough, there was a pair that was quite close to what he needed, and I was the lucky person who got to put the glasses on his face. And as those lenses aligned with his eyes, this blank stare of a blind child transformed right in front of me into this magical, universal smile of joy that went ear to ear. And as the earlier speaker said, it was infectious. And that, to me, was the first sign of true happiness in my life. It really rocked me. And I remember at that moment looking up and saying to the heavens, see, I do matter. And I recognized that I had a purpose and I did matter, and it was by providing those kinds of services that could transform someone's life in such a real and meaningful way. I wanted more of that. That became an addictive kind of feeling. And through the week of working in Mexico, I had many great experiences, and I was just pulsing with energy and vitality and life, and it was really one of the most exciting weeks of my life. Long story short, I continued that journey through my schooling and afterwards, and I had the opportunity to work in over 40 countries, providing eye care services. And I recognized that there were many reasons why having vision was important, but perhaps the most important of all was that I saw that there were huge numbers of people who were losing their economic lives because they couldn't see. It happens mostly in people who are middle-aged, people in their 40s who can no longer focus up close. And you see most people in the developing world earn their living with their hands and eyes, weavers, tailors, artisans. And they were losing the capacity to do that because they lacked a simple pair of glasses that I knew I could source in China for less than $1. And I thought that was a ridiculous affair. So here we are in South India now, and I want to introduce you to Chandramouli. I met him about 2 years ago in Andhra Pradesh. He was a tailor. He would make around 20 saris a month for the last 25 years. He was a master sari maker. And he would make around 20 saris a month, and he was able to support his family well. He was relatively poor, but still he had a He put food on the table and got his kids an education. He lived this perfectly reasonable life in rural India. Then he got into his early mid-40s, and his vision started to fail. And the word started getting around the community that Chandramouli's work with his saris wasn't quite as precise as it used to be, quite as beautiful. As you know, saris are very detailed. And so suddenly he was making 18 saris a month, 15 saris a month, 12 saris a month. And when our vision entrepreneur, a woman named Rama Devi, met him to sell him glasses, he was about 2 weeks away from closing his store. And he told us the story of her coming in, examining him, realizing he just needed these simple glasses. In an instant, just like that boy, he could see again, and he could work, and his quality of work went right back up. And he told us about this 18-month journey building his business back up from 10 to 20 saris. And after he told me that story, he shook his head, and he said, and all because of the lack of a 150 rupee pair of glasses, and he just couldn't believe it. And in Chandramouli's case, happiness equaled self-reliance. He wanted nothing more than that. I mentioned Rama Devi. She's a vision entrepreneur. This is a picture of vision entrepreneurs. These are people who are trained to sell our glasses. And Rama Devi was our #1 saleswoman in India. She sold hundreds of glasses a month. She made a nice living. She was able to put her kids through school. She was able to put a metal roof on her house. And she was even able to hire her husband as her driver because she needed a bigger territory. So they bought a motorcycle and hired a driver. And for Rama Devi, happiness meant being her husband's boss. This is a picture of a whole bunch of vision entrepreneurs. We have trained over 10,000 women to sell glasses in over 20 countries. We've sold over 1.25 million pair of glasses over the last number of years. This year alone, we'll sell over 500,000 glasses through this army of what we call vision entrepreneurs. And here's a story of one of our vision entrepreneurs.
Esto es Santa Ana, una ciudad de 300,000 habitantes, en El Salvador, y yo soy uno de ellos. Mi nombre es Vicky Aguilar, tengo 55 años, tengo 2 hijos y 2 nietos. Yo soy un asesor visual de VisionSpring. Yo ayudo a asesorar, dar evaluaciones y proveer acceso a lentes accesibles y de calidad en mi comunidad. Mucha gente en mi ciudad sufre de problemas básicos de visión, pero no tienen acceso a salud visual o no pueden pagar los precios elevados en las ópticas. Eva vive en Los Ángeles, una pequeña comunidad rural cerca de Santa Ana, con 3 niños y 3 nietos. Ella revisa granos de café en una fábrica local de café. Cada día su trabajo es medido en libras de café revisado. Sin lentes, su trabajo ha disminuido y ella está preocupada que va a perder su trabajo. Después de venir a mi campaña de salud visual, ella podría comprar lentes que mejorarían su trabajo y su calidad de vida. Como Eva, muchos de nuestros pacientes van a trabajar mejor, ganar más dinero y proveer más para sus familias. Como mis pacientes, yo tengo sueños sobre mi futuro. Antes era difícil imaginar que podría realizar todos esos sueños. Ahora tengo confianza que por cada par de lentes que yo vendo, me traiga más cerca a esos sueños.
As Vicky can attest, the great modern-day philosopher Ben Bernanke, as he said, having control of your life is happiness. And that is something that we see throughout our work at VisionSpring. So we've been selling lots of glasses to a lot of people, and generally everyone agrees it's a good thing. How could something as simple as selling glasses be controversial? Well, there's actually was a little controversy and still is around VisionSpring's model. And let me tell you a few stories about that. This story relates to our model where we decided to charge our customers for their products. And people said, how can you charge the poorest people in the world for products? You're doing something that's not ethical. And let me tell you a story of a woman. This is not the exact woman, but it's a woman who I met when I was in Western Colombia, in Choco, Colombia, many years ago, and I think it signifies why we chose this model of charging people. So there we were in Western Choco, in the rainforest of Colombia, and it's a hot, flat place with rivers, and a Choco Indian woman came to us. She had canoed a day and a half downriver because she heard there were eye doctors there to provide vision services. And she was known in her village for her whole life as being sort of the woman who couldn't see. And we examined her, and like the boy, not quite as profound as the boy, she had very high myopia. She had a -8 prescription. So she really couldn't see much at all. And we examined her eyes, we gave her a pair of glasses that matched her prescription. We all high-fived ourselves. We were very proud that we provided her vision for the first time, and she canoed back upriver. 2 or 3 days later, we were in the midst of a busy day. The same woman came back, and she was complaining. And we were like, what's the problem? And she said, well, when I got back to my village, people laughed at me because my glasses looked so funny. And you know what? She was right. These were 1950 cat-eye glasses on a Choco Indian woman who wore perfectly normal Indian garb. And it made her look ridiculous. And we said to her, well, this is the only prescription that matches what you need, and there's really nothing else in our library. And then she did something that just blew our minds. She took the glasses off, she put them on the table, and she walked back to the river and canoed upstream. And at that moment, I realized that vanity was not monopolized by rich people, that people wanted to feel dignity around the products and services that they had. And if you provided those things and you became a customer-centric organization, then you'd have a better chance of serving people in a way that they would want to be served and that they would pay, as long as the price was appropriately set for their capacity to pay. So VisionSpring took that model, and we forced ourselves to design products that people aspire to wearing, that make them look good, that make them feel good, that make them feel smart or rich or whatever it is that they want to feel. We want them to feel that they have a product that's aspirational. And so we listen to our customers, we design products based on what they're telling us, and we keep our prices low so that the average person can afford them. And so this was an example of a pair of glasses that really doesn't fit that bill, whereas this is an example of one that does. And here's a boy, he got to choose out of dozens and dozens of different frames what shape he got, what color he got, what temple color he got, what color case he got, and he got engaged in buying the product, and for a few dollars he was able to walk away with a pair of glasses that he was going to use and he was going to value, and a product that gave him dignity. So in closing, I just want to implore all of you to be open to finding how you matter. Push yourselves to find your true purposes. Put yourselves in situations that foster that discovery. And when something does stir your passion, ignites your heart, dilates your pupil, listen closely to those feelings. Be aware that there are going to be lots of countervailing forces that are going to suppress those feelings, because following your passion is clearly not the easiest path in life to take. In fact, it often leads you down roads that are trackless, without handles, but don't let that deter you. Create your own roads and tracks and handles, and open those tracks for other people to follow. And I can guarantee you that in the long run, personal angels will guide and support you through that journey, and miraculously, that path will ease over time. This diligent pursuit of your passion will lead you to a clear sense of purpose and happiness. I know it has for me, and I know it has for the countless people that we've been able to touch through VisionSpring. Thank you very much.